Hello everyone, greetings from Château Bouffémont. I'm Sarp, your manager here at the Château and your host on these interview sessions live on Instagram. A huge warm welcome to all of you, whether you watched it on Instagram or now watching this on our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining. As you know, on these Instagram live sessions we interview guests from the world of events and weddings to provide you with most useful tips and insider information that you can take for your own wedding planning. After a little break we took during the summer months, it feels so great to be back here once again. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the great people, all the amazing vendors who have contributed to the success of those events we have hosted in the past 6 months, and congratulate once again every beautiful couple that we were honored to have hosted. Now with autumn here, this is the right period to reflect on what we have done great, what we could have done better, get some rest of course, and start right away getting ready for the wedding season 2023. If you have just booked your venue or maybe right about to, this is the right period to start sending your save the dates or even maybe the invitations. But does that give you a hint about today's topic? Well, duh, it is written right over here. Everything you need to know about wedding stationery. But yeah, when there are tons of information, so many choices out there in the internet, knowing what to do, where to start, and finding the right style that really represents who you are, and something that is out of the ordinary is difficult to find. We will today find answers to all those questions you may have, so keep watching. I am particularly excited about today's guest speaker because what she does is no different than just pure art. Her creations are so inspiring. I want to put them on a wall, like a painting of a renowned artist. They are really, really special. The invitations she creates are not just a piece of mail that will end up in the bin, but real art pieces created to become a lifetime memory. So without any further ado, let me bring her in already. We will meet Mikyla Marie, the creator and owner of Ink and Press Co, all the way from Arizona, USA. Let's get going.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
How is your day starting?
It's been great. What an introduction. Thank you so much for all of the kind words.
Of course, thank you very much. Thank you for joining this live session today. I've been really looking forward to meeting you here, and hopefully one day in person too if you ever come to Paris. But
Yes.
We have so much to learn from you, so I guess it's time, and I'm sure all our audiences as well would like to learn more about you. So who is Mikyla Marie? Tell me about yourself.
Perfect. Well, first of all, it's pronounced Mikyla Marie. It's
Mikyla.
a little bit different. Yeah, it's slightly different, but it's kind of one of those names that not very many people have, so it's kind of tricky. Thank you very much. But yeah, I am the stationer and calligrapher and artist behind Ink and Press Co. I create fine art invitation suites that really focus on that very romantic quality, offering everything that couples need for their wedding, from the very beginning when we're doing save the dates all the way to their invitation suites, day of products, and all the way towards the end when we're creating thank you cards.
And how did you get into this so interesting and so beautiful art style that you gave a name, Ink and Press Co?
Thank you. So it's kind of funny. It'll be 5 years in November since I first started my business. And I started my business as a stationer in the same way that I think many other stationers and calligraphers do. I started as a bride-to-be myself. So when I was engaged to get married to my now husband, I was diving into wedding planning, and the more that I planned my wedding with my wedding planner, the more I was just introduced into how truly incredible this industry is. And I loved just how the wedding industry was such a fusion of business tactic and business skill, but also just pure art and creativity. And I specifically really got fascinated by the stationery process. And after creating my own wedding invitations and sending them out in the mail, I found myself thinking, how can I do this again? How can I, create these invitations for other people? And so from there, decided to start my business and booked my first couple of clients. And then obviously over the years, things have grown into what it is today.
And here we are today. Lovely. So I guess we want to learn more about stationaries and what are the different services that you provide and how the couples that watching us today can, find the right information. Let's start with the basics then. Can you talk us through exactly what wedding stationery couples might need for their wedding, starting from the save the date through thank you notes for after the wedding?
Yeah, so obviously from the very beginning, when you do get engaged, you want to start thinking about informing your couples about your wedding date. So one of the best ways to do that is with the save the date. If you are planning a wedding and you have a 2-year engagement, then I do highly recommend sending out a save the date so that all of your guests can make sure that they have that date reserved. Also, if you're planning a destination wedding, this is a wonderful time to inform your couples about, by the way, there might be some upcoming travel that you want to account for. So a save the date is definitely going to be the first thing that you're going to want to start tackling. And some key information to include on your save the date is obviously going to be your wedding date itself. But I always recommend to my couples that they include the general location. If they're still in the process of solidifying their venue, that's totally fine. But letting them know, we are traveling to France, or we are going to be traveling to Italy or Mexico or wherever your wedding might be. And then I always recommend sending out a wedding website. And a wedding website is going to be a wonderful place for you to be able to put all of the details regarding transportation, accommodations, weekend events if you're planning on hosting a welcome dinner. And then people will have, and your guests will have that wedding website on hand to be able to refer to when they are booking their trip. So
are you also helping with this website also?
Oh, I can help people with their wedding websites. There are, some really great services out there that do make it pretty easy and streamline the process, but I'm always willing to help my couples if they need help with their wedding website for sure. So after the save the date is sent out, then, it's a really great time to start thinking about your invitations after that. So we'll dive into the invitation suite process. Your invitations can be as, customized and personalized to you and include specific details for whatever events you are hosting, whether that's a welcome dinner or a rehearsal dinner or an after party or a farewell brunch. And then from your invitations, you will want to start thinking about your day of paper goods. So day of paper goods are a really fun opportunity to really personalize and customize and get really specific and kind of show your guests your personality and your love story with your spouse. And the day of paper goods obviously includes something like a menu card, a name card, an escort card, but can also include really fun custom details that reflect you and your couple, or you and your spouse. So I did a wedding this past year where the husband, the groom at the time, was a really big golfer. So we did these really cool custom golf balls. And so the day of paper goods can honestly include anything that you can truly imagine and get really specific towards you. And then after your day of paper goods, you will want to think about doing some thank you cards. The art of a thank you card goes a long way, and I think it's always courteous to show your appreciation to your guests for traveling, for spending that time, for being there for your intimate celebration and being there to honor you. And the best way to express that appreciation is just with a handwritten thank you card. And the fun thing is that for your thank you card, we can always take some of those design motifs from your invitation suite, whether that was a custom crest or a custom illustration, and put that on the thank you card so that the design is completely seamless from the save the dates all the way through to your thank you card at the very end.
And of course, there are some specifications of the creations that you do. Would you also maybe mind telling us, what about the materials, the fabrics, all the process that you use? I guess our audience would like to hear more about those too.
So my work is definitely known for handmade paper specifically. Handmade paper is that really beautiful paper with a deckled edge is what we call, but it has that torn or that very soft organic edge. And then I really love foil printing. I kind of specialize in foil printing. And so that combination of foil on handmade paper is definitely something that my business is really known for. But I work with all types of materials and all types of substrates. So anything from a standard cotton cardstock to a velvet to a faux leather to handmade paper to acrylic, like we work with it all. And then as far as printing methods, obviously I love foil press, but I also work with letterpress, digital printing. I offer calligraphy services. So my motto is, if you can dream it, I can definitely make it possible for you. Obviously, it's going to kind of be a team effort sometimes when it comes to like these big day of installation pieces. I like to work with a wedding planner so that we can make those items possible. But truly, I've had my couples come at me with the most random requests or what feel like random requests, and there's always a way that we're able to make that possible for them.
You made that happen. Okay, that's
great
to hear.
Yes, we do.
I have no doubt. So tell us a bit more about the key trends. And you said you have many different options, handmade and digital printing. What about the key trends in wedding invitations and stationery we'll be seeing in 2023, maybe 2024?
Yeah, so I think some key trends that we're going to be seeing is a lot of mixtures of different materials. So we've kind of seen it this past year with really interesting combinations of materials kind of sneaking in, and I think that that's only going to continue. So in the past, I think that maybe couples felt they could only pick one material to work with, for example, only cotton cardstock paper. But now we're seeing couples realize and know that you can mix handmade paper with cotton cardstock, with velvet, with vellum, and a transparent vellum. So there's a lot of different materials for the card and the paper themselves that we're mixing and blending together. And it creates a lot of beautiful texture, personality, and depth and interest to an invitation suite. So we've kind of seen that creep in this past year with people really blending different materials together. And along that note, different shapes. We've seen a lot of die cut shapes are what we call them. So a card cut into the shape of a crest or the shape of Italy itself, the shape of a country, the shape of the Eiffel Tower. And it's really adding that like next level of interest. So I think going into 2023 and 2024, we will only see more interesting pairings of shapes and interesting pairings of different materials within the same invitation suite.
Okay, interesting. And so what do couples need to think about when choosing their wedding invites and, their wedding stationery in general?
So I think too, when couples are kind of planning their wedding invitations or kind of starting to think about it, I always advise my couples to, instead of getting distracted by maybe what they see outside of them, to instead turn inward and to look for the ways that they can add those personal touches. I think when we're planning a wedding, it's really easy to see something that we love, whether we see it on Pinterest or social media or in a wedding blog or an article, and want to have a copy paste of that for ourselves, but instead to really find the ways that you can add your personal touch to an invitation suite and have the details that you curate for your wedding really reflect you and your spouse and reflect your love story and your personality. So I think as couples are starting to plan their invitations and plan their wedding, to instead look from left to right and kind of see maybe what's trending or what's popular, but to instead look inward and find the ways that they can infuse themselves into their wedding. And it's going to be so much more meaningful for them when they can look back and see that it truly is a reflection of their love story and a celebration of them.
True, so true. But of course, these things take time. You have to, I guess, guide the couple for a certain period. In this case, how far in advance should the couples send their invites, or preparing for this process? How long do we need?
Yeah, so I always say the sooner you reach out to your vendors, the better, especially with your stationery. One of the effects that we're still feeling post-COVID is a lot of paper shortages. And I know it feels really crazy because the whole COVID world seems so far away now, but there's still a lasting effect. And we in the stationery world are still feeling that effect and that impact. So I always recommend that couples, when you do get engaged, if there's a stationer or an artist that you want to work with specifically, to reach out to them right away. I am booking my clients about a year out in advance, a year and a half in advance. Well, that doesn't mean we're necessarily starting the designing process right away. Stationers and artists and calligraphers, we are booking a year to a year and a half out.
Sure.
So one thing too to know is that when it comes to working with paper shortages, if I know that my couple is wanting something specific, like handmade paper, for example, I am ordering that for them months in advance so that we can secure those specific details. So if a couple is a little bit more flexible, obviously that timeline can be a little bit more flexible for them in return. But if they have something specific that they're looking for, or a vendor that they are looking forward to working with, then the sooner you can reach out to them, the better.
And once we start preparing, once you get things, you get your hands on starting to prepare, how long that takes, all the design and the personalization?
Yeah, so it's going to be definitely dependent on every stationer and calligrapher and how they like to work. Sure. I personally love to leave plenty of time for the entire design process so that my couples don't feel rushed, and if there are any questions and they would like to see a sample of a specific color or a material, we have plenty of time to mail the samples to them. So I typically like to reserve around 4 to 6 months for the design process.
Okay.
As far as mail dates for invitation suites and save the dates and those materials themselves, for a save the date, if you are having a destination wedding, then I do recommend mailing your save the date about a year in advance.
Sure.
If you're around the 8-month mark, I still think that that's great, but anywhere from 8 to 12 months is awesome for a save the date.
Okay.
As far as the invitation suite itself, the industry trend or the industry standard is to mail your invitations 6 to 8 weeks prior to your wedding date. I personally feel that that's a little quick, just because over here in the States, we are still dealing with some delays with the United States postal system. And so I recommend to my couples that we shoot for a mail date of 12 to 10 weeks before their wedding date. That just gives us a little bit more time if there are any mail delays, or if the post office has lost a piece of mail, we can always send out a new one, and it gives your guests plenty of time to make the necessary travel arrangements and return their RSVP back. If it is a destination wedding or an international wedding and I'm working with a couple overseas, then I kind of tack on about 3 to 4 weeks to that number and shoot for a mail date around 16 weeks in advance, just so that we can make sure we're accounting for any delays that might happen at customs.
Of course. And you mentioned invitation suites. Is this like a package of materials in an invitation? What do we have in an invitation?
Yeah, so an invitation suite can contain many different things. The term suite is kind of just all-encompassing of, it can be used interchangeably with the word invitation. So typically within your one suite, we have the invitation card itself. That's going to be the largest card in your invitation, and it's going to have your name, your spouse's name, your wedding date, as well as the location of which you'll be getting married and the time of your wedding. If you're having any extra events for your wedding celebration, or there are additional details you need to communicate, like attire, accommodations, transportation, or you're inviting someone to a party or a celebration prior to the wedding itself, then you can always include an insert card. This will be smaller than the primary invitation since it includes secondary info, but any type of card that you need to include can be an insert card in the suite itself. Then the last thing that you'll want to include is an RSVP card. And this is going to be the card where your guests have the opportunity to write their name and let you know if they will or will not be in attendance. And then also if they have any dietary restrictions or allergies or specific accommodations that they need to be accounted for, they can write this on the RSVP card and then mail it back to you. That way, when you receive the RSVP card, you have the information from your guests of who will be there, who will not be there, how many people are coming, and if you're planning a seated dinner, you can know if you need to accommodate, allergies or dietary restrictions.
I see. Well, I mean, there are so many information to write, and I guess we have to figure out what to write. Would you be also helping with that step as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know for many people getting married, it's their first time around. And so they're going to be unfamiliar. There's going to be a lot of questions with the process. And I always tell my couples that all I need from you is just the actual info, the facts themselves. What are your names? What's your date? Where are you getting married? What time is your wedding? And then any of the specific verbiage, although it can feel very overwhelming to my couples, it's something I'm very familiar with and work with often. I'm there to help them. So I tell them not to stress too much about what the cards say themselves, as that's my area of expertise and where I can lend my helping hand, but to just let me know the details and the specific facts for their wedding. And then from there, I can help them write and phrase and use the correct verbiage for the cards themselves.
And we also, of course, the things to mention in those cards, and we also mentioned about the different styles to really communicate those inspirations. You said let's avoid copycatting other styles, but how can we give this information to you? Do you suggest maybe creating a Pinterest board or another type of mood board to help with the design?
Yeah, so I love working from a mood board for my couples. When I recommend that a couple creates a mood board or a vision board, I like to see them include details or photos on there that are maybe not necessarily wedding specific. Okay. So I had a couple where we created this really beautiful invitation suite that was a very vintage Ralph Lauren, and it was a stunning invitation suite. And on their mood board, they had old catalog photos from Ralph Lauren commercials and magazine promotions and these marketing material. And that was a really fun way to be able to bring in that personal touch for this couple and kind of bring in and lean into that equestrian feel. But on their mood board, it's not that there was a photo of another invitation suite, but it had photos of images that inspired us. So I love working from a mood board. I love seeing maybe that inspiration from my couples. But when I say to pull inspiration photos, I want to see photos of their favorite artwork, images that inspire them, that evoke those emotions that we want to convey. I don't necessarily want to see a photo of another invitation suite where they're wanting I like this I want this, but more of like, I love this painting. This painting makes me feel like ethereal and, you know, light and airy, and I want to create that same feeling in my invitation suite. And from there, we can take that inspiration and really hone it into an invitation suite that, yes, communicates the information for their wedding, but also really captivates that same essence that we captivated or that we saw in their mood board.
Wow, interesting. And I guess once you put these pieces together, you may have some samples, some proofs to share with the clients. Maybe if it's within the US, it might be easier. Maybe if it's a destination wedding for clients from abroad. How do you handle this process?
Yeah, so the wonderful thing about paper goods is that for the most part, everything can be done online. So couples do not have to be living in the same city that I reside in. And most of my couples actually live, all of them live around the world. Very seldom do I book someone who lives in my same area. And all of the design drafts, these proofs, they are done on a online client portal, and it's an area where the clients can come and review their proofs. They can offer me feedback and give, you know, edits and revisions to the designs themselves. And then from there, once we have their invitation ready to go, they can proof it, make sure everything is correct, the colors are correct, the information is correct, and then from there send them to print. A wonderful resource for other stationers that has been created is by a dear friend of mine. Her name is Aileen. She is Plume Calligraphy, and she has created this really incredible mock-up system called the Stationer's Mock-up. And it allows stationers and calligraphers to be able to create these mock-ups that are very, very realistic. So I tell my couples that with the design proof system that we have, they're going to have a very clear view of what their invitations will look like. Obviously, if there are any questions, I'm always happy to send samples. But with this resource that's been created by Aileen, we can get a very clear image of what the actual invitations are going to look like.
Okay, very good. Okay, any final advice would you like to give couples who are currently, you know, planning their wedding to make sure that they really get this perfect wedding stationery?
Yeah, of course. So I always say that my number one advice would be to start collecting your addresses early. People kind of laugh, but it is the most difficult thing is to collect all of your addresses for all of your guests. So I tell my couples that after you book your stationer, to start collecting those addresses right away. That way you have a very clear view of how many people are going to be coming to your wedding, and you have that final guest count number. That guest count number is going to also play into all of the other aspects of your wedding planning. I'm sure for you, as the chateau, you need to know in advance how many people are going to be at the wedding, the guest party size. So if you can get a number set of how many people are going to be in attendance and the addresses for all of your guests, it will not only make the invitation suite and save the date part so much easier, but every other process in your wedding planning experience so much easier as well.
True.
So for couples who have recently been engaged or are planning to get engaged, that's my number one tip, is to start collecting your addresses. That way you have those ready to go when the time comes to send out your save the date.
No, that's a great advice, actually. Sometimes we may not think about it, as you said, until last minute. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I feel like we've really covered so much. So if there are any questions that you might have or the audience might have, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Well, I will, I guess. Thank you very much for these wonderful tips, and of course joining today's live session. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will be in touch, and I wish you a great week.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for having me this morning. It's been so wonderful chatting with you and diving into the invitation suite and paper good process more.
It must be a great start to a great week, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. We'll chat soon.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
All right. so much valuable information, and what a great session. Her work inspires me so much. As I said, each piece is something out of an art book. Those colors, the fine materials she uses, her technique almost from the past century when it comes to the handmade materials, simply beauty right in your palms. Well, what a great day. I'd love to see you sometime soon in the next session. I guess I hope you all enjoyed the interview today. We will see you in the next one next month. Take care of yourselves. Have a good day. Goodbye, everyone.